Okay. All right. Hello, friends.
Oh, great.
It's your Besties book club, and we're missing two besties.
Sew me out, chicken
Yeah. So Kelsey's not here
chain.
in Japan, and I'm jealous that she's in Japan. And Brittany's not here because Throne of Glass might not be for Brittany, and that is okay.
I think she hasn't read it at all.
No, she hasn't.
But
But
she didn't want to rush. She
I was
didn't want
talking
to
to her
rush
today
herself.
about it, and she was just like, I still don't know if I want to read that. I was like, Brittany, if you don't want to read it, you can join book club every other month.
Right, because I think Kelsey took it with her to read.
Yeah.
Like, I think Kelsey's reading it while she's gone, because I think Kelsey started it but didn't finish it. And Brittany, I don't know what's happening. I think because she was going off of that she didn't like the Assassin's Blade more than a 3-star, but I thought that this one was better, so.
I also agree. Hello, Sara. Okay. Well, I was gonna I don't need you to introduce yourself because you've been on. Well, I mean, I don't sprint as much on mine, so I guess Neva, tell the people who you are.
I'm Neva from Reading with Neva. We do vlogs. We do Stars Hollow TBR every month, every month I restarted it for May. So that's up on my channel now. But that is my Gilmore Girls themed TBR game, which helps me narrow down what I read. I'm also 1/4 of the Besties.
There you go. And then we have only joining us for Throne of Glass discussions, Mr. Reading Winnie.
Hi.
That's okay. All right. Well, since we can just get started. People will hop in or they won't. What were your ratings, friends, for Throne of Glass? And if you could summarize it or your feelings for it in like a sentence or two.
Okay, so I gave it 5 stars.
Okay.
Okay. My feelings are there were some people that I did not like at the beginning that then I liked at the end.
Okay.
But also, I will be very transparent and I say that I read this twice.
Okay.
And Mr. Reading with Neva will know that there was some stuff like toward the end that I completely blanked out. But I honestly love this book.
Okay. Well, what about you, Mr. Reading with Neva?
I enjoyed this book very much. The rating I would give it's definitely 5 for me. It really hooked me in at the very beginning of it. Well, actually, I would say the previous book, Assassin's Blade, hooked me into wanting to know more about this particular world. And as they were going through with it, it was like, it got me more excited about this book. So I give it a 5. I was really excited about this.
I mean, I was gonna say you finished all the books already, haven't you? I think Neva's.
Yes, I finished the whole series. I was told I was supposed to be focusing on this book for the discussion, and then we move on. So I'm trying to stay within my guidelines.
No, you're good. I also want to read ahead, and I'm just like, well, if I read ahead, I will forget everything that has happened. So I need to stay where I'm at. But I also gave it 5 stars. Woo, we all did. I don't know. I feel like my biggest thoughts on this is I don't know if I'm team Kale or team Dorian. I love them both, and I don't have an opinion. I just like them both. That's my decision.
That's a real
that is very tough decision in this book. It's like Kale or Dorian. I'm like, oh.
They're both like nice, and they both do like different things for her. So I'm just like,
yeah, they are both nice, and they both do different things, and it's just like, ugh. I want the ship to be a tri-ship.
I don't think that's this type of book. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I did not. So I didn't like Dorian for the first part of the book. I'm not gonna lie. So Mystery Reading with Neva is the one that hears all of my thoughts as I have them. And he checked in with me both times that I read this because he knew that I was reading it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I don't remember anything. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, this is why I'm a chronic rereader. You know what I mean? Because I don't remember things. Dorian, to me, at the beginning, I mean, he's a prince, right? So he came off as very like arrogant and just like showy, and I was like, I don't have time for you. You know what I mean? But then I was told, just wait, just wait, just wait. You know what I mean? And then Kale makes a comment that's very rude in this book.
What comment? I can't remember.
He makes a comment. I'm going to find it right now for you because I don't want to butcher what he says. Okay, here we go. You ready? I have it highlighted.
No.
He said, he pulled a platter of salmon toward him and piled it on his plate. Selena made a disgusted face, her nose crinkling. You don't care for salmon? I hate fish. I'd rather die than eat it. That's surprising, he said, taking a bite. Why? Because you smell like one. And when I read this, I literally was like, what? Because the first time that I read this, Mr. Reading when you and I were reading it at the same time. So he was using the audio and I was reading the physical book at that point. This was before my brain was like, physical books? What are those? And I was like, did you read this thing that Kale said? So then he was like, yeah. And then I couldn't decide if he was just like grumpy or if he was rude. You know what I mean? Because, but I mean, it made her take a bath. So I guess that's good. Then as we go, I just realized that like Dorian is a marshmallow. Okay. So for my non romance readers, that just means like he's very like he's like a very like soft human.
Is that the same as like a cinnamon roll when people call them?
Like a cinnamon roll or a marshmallow. Yeah. He's just like a very soft human being. You know what I mean? He like as the book progressed, like you see like how sweet he is and all of that stuff. And Kale is more of like the grumpy to Selena's sunshine. Because when Selena is around Kale, her sunshine comes out.
Yeah.
But it's almost like her sunshine is overpowered by Dorian's sunshine.
Yes.
Because he's more sunshiny to me than she is.
He's very sappy.
Right. So like, he's like, this is why, I mean, I have to agree. I don't think it's going to be this kind of book, but like, I have to agree that this would work great as just like a poly dynamic. Because you have Selena, you know, in the middle, she'd be the hinge. And she, depending on which person she's with, depends on what part of her personality comes out. And then you got Dorian, who's cinnamon roll marshmallow man. And then you got Kale, who's just like grumpy rude man. It's like a perfect balance, you know? I don't think it's going to happen because this is a YA to adult series. But I'm just saying that would work, you know?
Let me see what she said. This is my second read. I rated it 5 stars. A lot goes on in the end.
Yeah, a lot goes on.
I binged it the first time I read it. It's been hard to keep to the reading pacing. You can read on.
I mean, you can read ahead.
And just go to the discussions.
Technically, I am on Crown of Midnight. Like, I've read through Crown of Midnight. So I'm on Heir of Fire now, technically.
Well, I need to start Crown of Midnight because I know the books get bigger. Oh, and then she said Dorian has a better personality. Yeah.
Dorian
are we judging in this book? Are we judging in this book?
Only this book. This is for Throne of Glass only, sir.
I would say I don't know if Dorian would have a better personality than Kale, because Dorian still has fanciful, like, you know, thoughts, and he's not necessarily grounded in how he wants to do things. He's I don't know, how do I say it? He's like that young adult guy that's like just getting a taste of responsibility, but still has the ability to have the full freedom of, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. And I also think it depends on, I think it also depends because this would be considered a fantasy romance. Romantasy, as I like to say. I know some people call it like fanro too, but this would be considered a fantasy romance series. So I think it also depends on what kind of romance reader you are. Like me personally, we all know me. I like my dark romance. So I like the grumpy. You see what I'm saying? Like me personally, I like a grumpy hero. I don't know if he would be considered the hero or if she would, but I prefer a grumpy male character. So while Kale is he's very brash, like he's very like blunt all of the time, but I did like him, but I don't know that I felt like one had a better personality than the other.
Yeah, it makes sense. She said, I preferred Dorian over Kale throughout the entire series. Well, good to know.
That's fair.
They're both still there.
This is why I like to read Why Choose Romance, because then I get just like a little bit of everybody. You know what I mean? I get a little bit of every personality in Why Choose.
And then
I did.
Yes.
Wait, okay, hold on. No, you got okay, what?
Did you make the connection that Dorian and Kale were the masked strangers in the Assassin's Blade?
What? Remind me of the Assassin's Blade Masked Strangers part, because I'm blanking.
I don't remember which novella it's in. Luckily for everyone, I have my book sitting there next to me. I don't remember which. Was this in the Pirate Lord? See, it's been too long since I read this.
I did not make that connection. So. I'm like, let me know. Fill me in.
I don't remember. Sarah, do you remember which novella this was in? Because I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember which novella it was in. Because all the novellas ran together for me. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, hold on. I think
before she and Sam got together, there was a holiday ball and she danced all night. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So this would have been, I think this was the second novella.
Okay. I typed in like something to find it on Google.
Okay, great.
And they're like, this scene in Assassin's Blade, and then they're like, that was Dorian and Kale. I'm like, what?
Yeah, which it was, which I did put those together.
Oh, it was the Yule Ball?
Yes.
Ball?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, because there were the two masked strangers.
Why was she at that ball though?
To follow the what's his name? I believe.
I think she was following a mark.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, because the Yulmus Ball is in the this book as well, but she's not supposed to go to it, but then she does anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, interesting. I did not. That's exciting. Well, then that's why he ended up picking her then, right? Because he met her then.
Yeah.
To be the champion.
I think because of the after she got caught and everything else, for her to be the champion, because remember, she was bold enough to like basically, spit at his father.
Yes.
And Dorian still being a brat, and therefore, like, I'm going to spite my dad and get the one woman
to
be your champion just to thumb it in your face.
And he knew that there was, all that history behind Selena and his dad too.
Yeah.
He wasn't naive to the fact that his dad had like destroyed her whole family and all of that stuff. Like he didn't know, I don't think that he knew the extent of what had happened, but he knew that there was bad blood between Selena and his dad. So he got Selena as
That's the word I was looking for.
Chose Selena as his champion just to spite his dad, really. But he also thought that she would win, I think.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, throughout the book, Kale keeps telling her to, like, lay low, don't be intimidating, which she gets angry about because she feels like it's some kind of slight to her. And he was like, this is smart to do this. Because I will say, like, I was a little bit annoyed with Selena in this book until she finally understood what Kale was trying to do by telling her to not take all of her skills at once. It reminded me, which I know that this is a comparison that we get to the Hunger Games. We get this comparison. Selena reminded me a lot of Katniss because there's a point during the Hunger Games also where Katniss is told by Haymitch that she needs to not showcase all of her skills until she goes in front of with the bow and arrow, until she goes in front of the judges, right? Because there's that part before right before the tournament where they all get judged on their skills and ranked.
Yeah. And
she gets angry, and that's what the scene with Selena and Kale reminded me of, because he's like, you're being dumb sitting here trying to show, like, duel with people and like show everything that you have up your sleeve. And she was like, so I have to walk around here and pretend to be this high lady or whatever instead of being the world's best assassin. And I remember in the Hunger Games getting annoyed with Katniss for the same thing, because I was like, if you give all your cards at once, no one's going to be intimidated by you, because now they know what to expect. I mean, nobody's going to be intimidated by you because you look like just a little...
You lose the element surprise.
You lose all element of surprise if you give your full hand out, like, from the jump.
And on top of that, they were murking other, champions.
Right.
So, like, at the time, you didn't know who was being strong or who was getting murked by who. So, like, why add that added more pressure and attention to yourself?
And as people started figuring out who she was, like, as other champions started figuring out who she was, because that was also a thing that was happening, it was easier for her to feign ignorance about who she actually was, because she hadn't shown them anything. So them accusing her of being Selena Sardothian and saying, well, you're Selena Sardothian, but you're just going by this fake name of Lillian or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
It was easier for her to say, I don't know what you're talking about, because she hadn't actually shown anything to prove that they were correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a different question, though, because that made me think of this, which at the end, when Kane or whatever, like, tries to kill her again, like in the back, and then Kale ends up killing him, the king. So, like, the king is evil and didn't actually want her, correct? I'm like, I feel like that part was like, there was a lot going on at the end, and I'm like, I don't know if I got that right.
Okay, so I'll just warn people that we're on spoilers at this point.
But
are we on spoiler time now?
Yes, just in case anybody is watching this back. So here's what happened. Kane was being controlled by the pompous man that I can't remember his name.
He was paid by the pompous man.
Well, he was right, but there was magic involved with this also.
Because he was the monster thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes and no. So he was the conduit for the monster things to come out, because he knew the runes. So he was doing the rune work, bringing out the monsters.
Right.
Because when the monster things ate the other opponents, he was getting their strength.
But there was also magic involved from the Duke, because this is a thing this was the part that I did not remember until I reread this. I just finished this at the end of April, I think. Yeah, I refinished this at the end of April because it's in my April wrap up. So there is a whole discussion at the end of the book between Duke Parrington and the king.
Yes.
Around what's her name?
Kaltain.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, so you're welcome.
No, that's fine.
But Kaltain, right? Because Kaltain she poisoned
her.
Selena, and then she's like, you know what this is, blah 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 blah, whatever like that, and he's like, you poisoned her, whatever. He feigns.
Why'd they do that to her too? I'm confused at all that.
To get her out of the way, because they also knew that her end goal was to be with Dorian.
Yeah. Okay.
But she was giving in.
Why they were getting Kaltain out of the way? Scapegoat.
Yeah. She was an easy scapegoat because she played her hand.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Everyone was aware of the fact that her end game was Dorian, but she thought that she had, unfortunately for Kaltain, she thought that she had the Duke tricked. So she thought she had
obvious. So
really the Duke had her tricked.
Yeah.
He double crossed her.
No, he didn't double cross her. He just straight led her.
That's what I'm saying. But to her, it looked like a double crossing, because she thought that she had him fooled into thinking one thing. Because even like the mom, the queen.
Oh, yeah.
When she has the conversation with Dorian about him finding a woman or whatever,
she mentions Kaltain.
She talks about Kaltain and makes a comment about how unfortunate it is that the Duke basically has spoken for her already, because Kaltain would have been a good match. So while she has some people fooled or whatever, because she sucks up to the queen and talks about, oh, he would never choose me type thing. Her end goal this whole time, and the Duke knew that her end goal was Dorian. So it was easy for her to get played by the Duke, because all he had to do was set her up the way that he did, and then act like he had no idea that she poisoned Selena.
Yeah.
But really, like, the king and everybody else was in on this the whole time.
Yeah.
I think the king was indifferent. I don't think he was necessarily in on it, because he did want Kane to be the champion, because
he was definitely in on the Kane part of it. I don't know that he was necessarily in on all of the Duke's plans. I'll give you that probably the Duke did the whole poisoning thing on his own, like set that up on his own. I don't think that the king was in on that necessarily. If he was, he acted so indifferent that clearly he has no remorse. But as far as being in on the Kane thing, he was definitely in on that. He definitely knew what was going on with that.
And at the end of that, they decided they were going to try and make that better to better enhance the monster situation, right? Because I guess that's like his greater scheme, or.
Yeah, it was basically to get all the champions, feed Kane, and then, wow, we got better monsters. Because
And we also have to remember that they were using dark magic on Kaltain too. That's where her headaches were coming from, because the Duke was trying to control Kaltain also, and that's where her headaches were coming from, because we noticed that she was smoking the opium out of that pipe all the time to try to keep it, and she couldn't figure out why she had such bad headaches. And her thing was, well, once I can get Dorian, the headaches will stop. Hi, Lincoln.
Yeah.
And can you say hi? They said hi to you.
Hi.
Hello.
If you're gonna sit here, though, you have to be quiet. I'll keep talking. Okay. Anyway, what was I? Oh, let me look at this. Oh, she says he was using the word marks and his blood to summon the creatures, which I feel like I was trying to read this book so fast because I started it yesterday that like some things kind of missed the mark for me. And so like the whole time I was like, what the hell are word marks? They were just like the written symbols, right?
Right.
Yes.
And then the word marks that were actually under Selena's bed that she thought were being left by the monster or by Cain or whoever was killing were actually good ones. They were protection, which is why she survived for as long as she did.
Because Nehemia was using those word marks.
Right, because Nehemia lied to her and said she didn't know how to use the word marks, but then was going in when she knew Selena was not in the room and putting the protective word marks under her bed because she knew that something was happening.
Well, I never thought I can never remember how you say her name. Nehemia. I'm like, I never thought she was evil. I was always just like, I think she's like doing something. Like I knew she wanted to like save her peoples from Eelway, but I never thought she was like evil.
I never thought she was evil, but I will say this: Selena kind of gaslights you for a little while. Because Selena is so convinced that Nehemia is doing something that's going to endanger everyone else that you.
Who gaslit who? Who gaslit who?
What do you mean?
Who gaslit who? Because don't be putting it on my girl Selena. Don't.
If you would let me finish, thank you so much, Mr. Interrupt this. Okay. What I'm saying is reading it from because we are following Selena's point of view. Correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So as the reader, you get gaslit by Selena when it comes to Nehemia because we're also being gaslit by Nehemia because Selena is being gaslit. As the reader, you're being gaslit by both parties. So you have to decide who you think. You have to try to come up with who you think is actually not like. You have to decide if you think that Selena is just not having enough information to actually know what's happening.
Yeah.
Or you have to decide if you believe what Selena is thinking, which is that Nehemia is evil. As the reader, you're being gaslit by both parties.
Okay. From my particular point of view, I feel like Selena was acting out of ignorance, out of lack of information, especially when she gave a bit of the only thing that she has to trade in that world is trust to people. That's the only thing she has to trade is her word and trust to people. And she point blank asked her, do you know what these are? And old girl said no. But Selena, being the assassin that she is, she knew something was up by the body language.
I understand that. I think you're missing what I am saying.
I mean,
as the reader, you're being gaslit by both people.
Okay.
As the reader, I'm not saying that Nehemia didn't gaslight Selena. I understand that, and I understand that Selena had to act off of the information that was presented to her.
Mm-hmm.
But as the reader of the book, as the person reading the story, you were being gaslit by both parties and had to try to figure out if you could. You had to try to decide if you could figure out what was up. He's talking to one of the kids.
That's okay.
I gotta take somebody to work.
All right.
Okay. I told Rainey already that you're gonna have to leave by 2:30.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good talk, y'all.
All right, come here, baby. Okay. All right, let me catch up on these comments real quick. All right, she says, the dark magic the king and Duke are involved in, they're using Caltaine as a human experiment. Yes. And then Nehemia was acting suspiciously, thank you, in the library.
She definitely was.
Yeah, she was. Because she didn't say what she was actually looking for. And then Sara said, I felt it was more a red herring than it was gaslighting.
What is this?
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. I feel like I never know what's a red herring and what's not, but that's just me.
I just never try to figure anything out, to be honest.
I have started to do that more in thrillers now. Like, I was so proud of myself the other day. I was reading What Lies in the Woods, and I got to like 50%, and like all of a sudden, like this thought just popped in my head, and I was like, oh, that's totally what's going on.
I feel like I'm always wrong.
And at the end, I was like, I got that right. How did I do that? I'm like, maybe
I feel like
thrillers now.
I feel like no matter if it's a thriller, a fantasy, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm always wrong about how things are gonna happen.
And I'm wrong for most. I was wrong with A Flicker in the Dark like 5 times. But I kept trying to guess, and it just didn't happen. But I don't know. Okay. But anyway, about this one. I'm like, let me see what other questions I wanted to ask about this. How did you feel about the characters throughout this book? Like, were there any that you were just like, I don't know, but like, I know like Dorian annoyed you in the start, but were there like any that you were like, I really could care less if this character continued on in this series?
To be honest, I like all of the characters. There's not any characters. I'm trying to just stick to this book, so hold on, let me look.
Okay. Well, no, for me, I don't know. I feel like I liked everyone, although I've heard a bunch of people say, oh, well, you haven't even met like the best characters yet. And I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know that because I haven't read the other books yet, but hey.
Okay, so what I think happened in this book didn't happen in this book. Okay, so I personally like all of the characters. I mean, I had characters that annoyed me throughout the series. So, like, there were times where Selena annoyed me. There were times where, I mean, for the first part of the book, I didn't really like Dorian at all. I thought that he was annoying. And I also felt like I mean, I said this already, but I felt like in the beginning he was pretty like pompous and arrogant. So like I didn't really love that. But as the book went on, most of the characters grew on me. Now, obviously the characters that were like not supposed to like the king and stuff like that, like I didn't like them. But I don't feel like there were any characters necessarily that I was like, if this person didn't continue into the next book, I wouldn't care. You know what I mean? Because I feel like everybody had their place, whether it was for us to like them or to not like them. I didn't feel like there were unnecessary characters in this book.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, obviously, I didn't like all of them, like Kane and the King and stuff. But yeah, I liked all the other characters. And how did you like the ending? Did you like how it wrapped up?
I mean, for the fact that this is an 8-book series, I think that the ending was fine. I think that the ending because the ending is open ended.
Yes.
Because the last line in the book is "Tell me tomorrow."
Yeah.
That's the last line. So it immediately takes you into the next book. Which I personally like for series. I would prefer a cliffhanger in a series than for everything to feel like it's wrapped up when you have 7 more books you have to read. Or 6 more books you have to read. Because I feel like if we get a nice peaceful ending at the end of the first book, there's no reason for me to keep going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I personally liked the ending because I felt like it made you want to continue.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Did you listen to the audio or did you just have the physical?
So the first time, okay. So I guess technically I've read this book 3 times. Let's just be honest. So I have the book in all 3 formats. So I have the box set of the physical books in hardcover. I have the audiobooks, and I think I have all the audiobooks except the Assassin's Blade because I read the Assassin's Blade physically. And then I have the ebooks as well. So on first read, I read it physically. My second read, I did listen to the audio because I wasn't sure that I was pronouncing things correctly. And I knew that at least if I listened to the audio, it would give me a closer pronunciation of things. But on this last read, I read the ebook so I could highlight things without messing up my book before I was ready. Sorry, I had Ari come in here. You're muted, ma'am.
Oh, man. I just said a whole spiel. All right. Well, I'm going to read this thing and then I'm going to say what I was going to say again as I was just talking all to myself. Okay. I think it's funny that Selena makes friends so easily. No, right now, baby. I think it's okay. You can sit on the floor and color, honey. Go to the coffee table. Okay. I think it's funny that Selena makes friends so easily, even though it's pointed out that she's so alone and off-putting. Yes.
And I think here's the thing about this. I think that she feels that she's alone and off-putting. Because in the since we read the Assassin's Blade first, this is what I'm going to go off of, right? In the Assassin's Blade, she's always in a cloak, has her face covered.
Yes.
Which automatically makes her more intimidating because you can't see what she looks like.
Yeah.
So I feel like Selena is under the impression, because she's been made to cover up for so long, that she is therefore lonely and off-putting. But I don't think that she actually is once she is not wearing assassin's garb.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And the only other thing that I was saying when I had myself muted and I thought I was not muted is that I was listening. I got the audiobook for this because I ran out of time on Libby to read it. And also, I really liked the audio, but I also realized like the first 3 books are like available on Libby and then the rest are Audible exclusive, which I'm like, I don't understand why, but okay.
Yeah, that's why I went ahead. I just bought them all on Audible.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to. And I'm like, well, I guess I know where all my credits are going for like the rest of my life. But it is what it is, because I really like the audio. So now I'm like, oh, well, now I have to have the audio for all of them.
I think they did that because the Crescent City books
are only Audible.
Are only on Audible.
I know, which I don't know how I read that first book without an audiobook. I don't know how I did that.
I did not read the first book without an audiobook. I read the first.
That was actually before I got into audiobooks, because I only used to read physically. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do an audiobook. And now I'm like, what were you doing with your life?
Right, what were you doing before? That's like me and ebooks too. Like me, ebooks and audiobooks. I'm like, what were you doing before you had a Kindle?
What was I doing in my life?
And audiobooks. Like, what were you doing? Like, you were just reading 800-page books with your eyes all the time?
Yes.
No.
I know, right? I can get so much more done when I pop in an audiobook.
Right.
Okay, let's see what she said. I like that the ending opens up for foreshadowing so much more to the world that's unknown at this point. Like, I don't think I would want it to just be about her being an assassin for 6 more books. Oh, no, 100%. That would be so boring.
And you also wouldn't have the fantasy romance, like the romance aspect wouldn't work if all we focused on was the fact that she was an assassin. Because I think it would overshadow everything else.
Yeah. No, I like this. I like that there's like a purpose to it, and I'm interested in seeing where the rest of the books go. Like, I'm very intrigued. I'm also like surprised that I waited so long to read these, although since I haven't been reading avidly for like a couple years prior to this, I like didn't even know about these books, and I feel like so many people read them when they were like younger, and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely behind.
See, this is me also, because the first book was written around the same time as Harry Potter was like
big.
Around the same time that Harry Potter was like finishing up movie wise. You see what I'm saying? And I just don't remember the Assassin's I remember ACOTAR being on my radar, but I don't remember the Assassin's or Throne of Glass being on my radar at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the first Sarah J. Maas I ever heard about was ACOTAR.
Yeah. And I didn't know what that meant for the longest time. I was like, what the heck is ACOTAR?
Right.
Now I know. I love reading physically while listening at the same time. So do I.
Me too.
So do I. That is my favorite way to absorb anything. I also felt like I needed to do that with the Throne of Glass one because I had no idea what was going on. But now, like, maybe I don't have to do that with the rest of them. I kind of know more now, but
I find that it's also easier for me to annotate if I'm doing both.
oh, I have to do that.
And I've also found that I will listen to the audiobook and read the ebook because I can mark the ebook up and then go in and mark my annotations in my physical book based off of what I marked in the ebook.
Yeah.
Which that makes it a little bit easier for me too, because then when I'm reading back through my notes from the ebook, I can decide if it's something that I actually want to highlight or not.
Yeah. That's true. Sarah was really young when she started writing this series. I think I knew that because it said in the back of Throne of Glass that it took like a decade for her to write this book. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Lord. That's awesome, though. She wrote it's a good series so far. I'm like, how many more do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6? Yep.
What, Ari?
6 books left. Okay, I love your drawings, but you gotta be quiet while mommy's chatting. Okay. Let me see. Are there any other questions? I can't think of any other thoughts that we haven't talked about. Are there any other things we need to discuss about this book? I will wait.
Sorry, I had Ari in here. No, I don't really have any other thoughts. I don't think that's really all for me.
Are there any? I guess I don't know because we're gonna be reading all these. But are there any other books or series or movies that you'd recommend if you liked this book?
Definitely Hunger Games. I can't speak on Game of Thrones because, if you want to read the books for Game of Thrones, I can speak on that. But I will tell you that it's not a complete series, so
I did not really care.
You're at your own risk. From what I understand, the Game of Thrones book follow relatively closely to the show up to a certain point.
Okay.
But I haven't actually watched any of the Game of Thrones show.
Well, I would say that this even reminded me a little bit of Serpent and the Wings of Night, and so I would recommend that one. Which I highly recommend that one anyway. Because I'm just saying that's my whole personality now. That is my new brand. Other people's clothes has been wiped out of the first place. This book is so good. So if you
really, if you like fantasy romance, really any fantasy romance would work for Throne of Glass, just because most fantasy romance, at least in my experience, most fantasy romance has some kind of obviously a romance, but it has some kind of high stake. So it has some kind of competition or something that they have to overcome in order to get whatever is rightfully theirs. So you could even of Blood and Ash, from what I've heard. I haven't actually read that book yet. But that would be like a spicier adult version.
Yeah. I read the first Game of Thrones book and wasn't a fan. Me too. I was not a fan. Lincoln, dude, you drew on the table.
It's okay.
Is it okay? I'm glad you think it's okay because I don't agree with that statement. Oh, anyway. Okay, no more.
No.
Okay, anyway. Well, that is all the things that I have for
Mommy,
it. Basically.
Mommy, now you can do it because you're all shamed.
Okay, give me a sec. Oh, but first, very spicy.
Yeah,
Loved.
Okay.
Loved from Blood and Ash. I did too. I've only read the first one. I need to read the rest of the series. That will happen. I can't promise you when, but at some point I'll read it. But what was I going to say? That basically concludes our chat for this one. And then while we're here, I'll just say our other stuff that is happening in the near future, which I just had the book for next month with me, and I feel like Lincoln must have took it or moved it.
Yeah,
or
I can't hold it up for this month.
Yes,
it's this one.
I know, but where did my copy go? Where did you put it?
Where?
This is on my channel, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Because I'm pretty sure I'm the one that picked this book.
Yes, we're reading that for May, and then we're reading Crown of Midnight for June, because that is where we're at. And then because I put this in my description down below, I just said the next 3 months. Let me grab the last book, the one for July, which I picked because I've been wanting to read this book for 500 million years. The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker.
He's here at the door.
Oh, I need to buy that book.
I think my groceries are here. But that is all for this chat. And Sarah says, can't wait to read some more. So with that, I will let you determine for Legends and Lattes. All right. Goodbye, friends.